I've now declared definitively that Ottawa is the worst city in the entire country.
Have you been to Regina?
And would you want to say that as well, Corey? Do you want to just it's an easy one. You can just plus one that comment.
I'll tell you this. It is not my favorite city. We've talked about this. It's okay. Very nice people. There's a lot of good things in Ottawa, for sure. Not going to try take away from Ottawa's whole vibe in that sense. Not for me. That's what I'll say about Ottawa. Really, really pretty all in on this federal government thing. And as an Albertan, that makes me feel weird.
Well, it should make you feel at home. A place that doesn't diversify? How is that a place that doesn't make you feel at home? Come on.
At least it's all about Canada. You're siding with the separatists now, Corey? Is that
certainly not. Certainly not. That would be... let's start again. There? How about we start again on that one?
You want to start? No. Where do you want? Speaking of starting, we should get started. Stephen Carter, I'll let you choose.
Oh, wait, we haven't started.
No,
let's start. Stephen Carter is the minister. We have to pay all due respects to the minister.
That's a great point.
Stephen Carter, as the minister on record, do you want to start with an op-ed that one of the three of us has written in iPolitics, or do you want to start with Alberta separatism, an ongoing drumbeat on our other show? Where are we starting?
I think we should probably start with the iPolitics op-ed that I didn't write. So
okay, neither did I.
I didn't write it. You didn't write it. So it must have been Corey Hogan who wrote it. Now,
was
Corey,
me.
Can we just recap, Zane? How long has Corey Hogan been in the House of Commons?
This guy's fucking showed up 10 minutes ago, and now he's got a whole iPolitics article on how something should change. This is the most white man energy I have ever seen in a piece without someone realizing it. Being like, listen, I've been here for fucking 5 seconds. Am I going to ask any questions? No. I'm going to propose all the solutions. I'm going to tell you which solutions are harder than others. I'm going to tell you how we fix something. This is insane. This is an insane thing to do. And you have done it, Corey. Okay.
Yes, I'm definitely Columbusing the idea that question period is broken. I'm not disputing that. Others have gotten there first. It's no question. But question period.
No one in their wisdom could spend 10 minutes in Parliament and come up with the solutions you have. That's why they're publication worthy. Oh my goodness, you've done it. And by the way, for folks listening, this is not a fucking joke. Corey has an article. Corey, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah. Look, in my defense, Zain.
No,
fair point. No defense. Fair point. I've not even been a year on the job. Fair point. In my defense, I put a couple of tweets out about how I thought question period should change. And then iPolitics said, hey, do you want to write about that? And I was on House duty, and you got a little bit of extra time when you're on House duty. You're in the House, you're talking, you're listening, but you got time. So I took an hour and I wrote it into a thing, and then they posted it basically instantly, which was pretty impressive of them, frankly. And and so it starts this conversation. But the basic gist is this. QP supposed to be about accountability. Maybe not doing the greatest job of that as it's currently constructed in Canada, in Alberta, in Ontario, in Quebec, basically everywhere. The format is 35-second question, 35-second answer. And that's it. But I want to stress, A, it's not how we used to do it. B, it's not how anybody else does it. C, there's no reason we can't change that. And I got to tell you, like when you're sitting there and you're kind of subjected to it every day, and you've got the dozens of questions that are coming through, and they're all in this format, this broken format, you really, really start questioning why that is the case. And I'm sure you can get used to it. I'm sure it'll stop bothering you after a while. But part of why I think being a new MP, I wanted to say something about it is, God help me, I will get used to it at some point. So let me at least get on the record how it actually feels before I've lost all sense of that.
So it's been published for about 18 hours now. Am I correct? Give or take.
Yeah.
How has the response been from your colleagues to your op-ed, your solution from the 10 minutes in the House of Commons member of Parliament from Calgary, Alberta, Canada?
Yeah, no, this is good. And I'll just tag on one more question. What if they've run out of their 3 free articles that they get on iPolitics in addition to they can't read?
It's a great point.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, on the first, like, how has it reacted? A lot of people saying, yeah, absolutely. You know, somebody knocked on a booth I was in today, gave me thumbs up, said, read your article. You know, that was all fun. I've even had a couple of conservative MPs tell me that they like it. And they don't agree with the idea of limiting like the repetitiveness, but they're generally on board with the other two proposals that I made, which we didn't really get into. And then there have been people who clearly think maybe sit down and wait a minute, right? Like, just from the tone, I'd be like, hey, did you read my article? They're like, yeah, I read your article. Yeah, that's it. There's not really much coming after that. But being the savvy communicator I am.
Majority of your colleagues, they're not telling you that. No. Oh, I know.
Yeah, it's not the majority. But it's, you can tell some people are like, nah, I don't think we need to do that. Maybe even I accept your critique, but no, I don't think we need to do that. I don't think we need to focus on that. For sure. A little bit of that.
That's pretty fun. That's did you want to go through your three proposals before, now that we've kind of alluded to them?
No, we'll let him get to it second. Hold on. Yeah, is it that we don't need to do what's in the article, or who are you to suggest these at such an early junction?
Can you guys hear that? Like jackhammering that's happening around me?
No, I think that's just your heart.
Oh,
just your heart.
People knocking already? We will bail. We will bail before you get the knock on the door. I promise.
Just
we'll
like
hard
that.
out of this thing.
Yeah.
So, Carter, that's his way of avoiding questions. The false jackhammer.
Yeah.
Fine,
I mean,
Corey,
I honestly, I didn't even hear your question, but I've got my volume up now. Talk to me, Zain.
Tell us your three suggestions, so the people who don't have a free article on iPolitics can.
Can you gift this article unlimited times to people? Is that something that you can do, Corey? Is that just because I know?
No, I don't think so. But I think that with iPolitics, when you get like the subscribe thing, if you just hit back, you get to the article anyways. Don't tell the iPolitics people I cracked their code.
Good hack.
I think that works.
Okay, lay it on us.
Okay, 3 basic ideas. They're pretty simple. The first one is just make the answers longer. Just instead of having like this like long soundbite thing, just have a 2-minute answer. And there's some benefits to that, not least of which is you could actually get information in it. But if you're the opposition, you'll also, look, there's a benefit to you as opposition too. You'll be able to expose weak performers. Like anybody can hide in a 35-second response. We've talked about it on this pod. I don't even need to hear the question to give you a 35-second response that sounds somewhat on topic. So you just, longer answers mean you're going to get more robust answers and you're not going to be able to hide in the shallows. You're going to have that. So that would be kind of the easiest thing to do. Why not? We used to do that anyways. That's what it was before the 90s came and we made changes to it. The second thing that we propose, or I propose, is that instead of having a total free-for-all where anybody can ask any minister a question, we have it by days. We say, okay, we're going to have some questions to social ministries on this day, and to economic ministries on a different day, and to the prime minister maybe on a third day. And this is a format that basically everybody else uses. And at first it makes it sound like you're less accountable, right? You know, oh, okay, well, you're not necessarily going to be up every day. But the lived reality is when you've got dozens of ministers there, if one of the ministers is not answering, particularly, if they're not on their game that day, right? You just go to the next minister. You've got so many choices, so many choices. And again, if you're the opposition, the benefit here is you can actually get into it with a minister. You can go multiple layers deep. You can understand things. People are prepped for it. The expectation is higher because you're not up every day. So that's number 2. And then the third one is don't let people ask the same question 5 times in a row. That one's way harder because there's subjectivity to it. But even if you got rid of the most egregious repeating of the questions where like nothing has changed and we're just all stuck in this horrible Groundhog Day style loop where, you're like, what's going on? If I hear this song one more time, I'm going to smash the alarm clock, right? Just stop it. Just don't do it anymore. But there was a 4th suggestion. And the 4th suggestion is kind of the meta suggestion, which is like, just try some of these things. Like just experiment. We don't need to go all in. We don't need to change every question period forevermore. What if we just agreed we're going to give it a shot for 6 months? Or we're going to try it on these 2 days, but the other 3 days are normal QP. So these are my modest suggestions to fix question period based on my lived experience, still informed by my novice status. How's that sound?
This just stinks of modesty. The whole premise of it is just modest from the core. Your humility is showing across the nation through your iPolitics article. So Zain and I saw it right away. It's fantastic. I mean, and you will be the only MP with a podcast now that Nate Erskine-Smith is stepping down. Is that correct as well?
It's true. Who else shows up regularly on a podcast?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I should maybe check on that. You see if I've got the market cornered.
Equipment is available for a discount Facebook Marketplace price. You can do an explainer show like him. That'd be good. Yeah, you don't want to say anything.
He had a pretty well produced show, I got to say.
So I'm saying, pick up that equipment. Hey, listen, I have a question for you. In all seriousness, who is this intended for? Like, what was the goal of doing this? Putting it into a piece? Was it just like get your name out there? Where you actually? I shouldn't say what are you thinking of doing with this? Or like, what is the intended outcome strategically for you?
So with every parliament, there is a debate on the standing orders. Happens just like once. And that debate happens to be coming up on Friday. And so I knew that. I knew it was coming. And so the reason I threw it out there, it was actually kind of meant for an internal audience, MPs and whatnot, right? Was like, let's start the conversation about it. We're having this debate about the standing orders. Seems like a pretty good opportunity to debate the standing orders. Yeah. And hey, I could have gone a lot of ways. I could have said, hey, let's talk about why we need to wear ties. Didn't go that way. Hey, let's talk about this broad definition we have of privilege that allows you to repost things you've said in the House and maintain kind of shields against any legal action. I didn't go that way either. I thought I'd go this way.
Yeah, and you did it with that notoriously internal communications tactic that's known as Twitter. So well done for really picking your target audience. And I've been talking to a couple of my clients about the medium is the message. And I think that really, I'm going to use it as an example. So well done. Well done, sir.
Well, can I tell you, there are a lot of MPs and there are a lot of MP offices and there are a lot of reporters who follow it who might have opinions about this. And so in some ways, it felt like the most obvious way to put this message in front of anybody who'd care to see it.
I mean, the email system hardly ever works, right? Like no one ever reads the emails. I mean,
that might be half true though, Stephen. Like a lot of emails bomb around and everyone's like, oh, great. Okay, here's another one.
I thought the email system was just trying to get your house duty covered. I thought that was the entire point of the email system. So
that joke said on this podcast, listened to by tens of thousands of people who are not MPs. I got to tell you, that joke landed with MPs right now. I guarantee it.
Yeah, because it's true. It was a true. It was a true joke.
Where do you want to go, Carter? I want to talk. Hogan, can we talk about you at the Conservative Convention?
Sure. Yeah, I was the observer in the Conservative Convention.
You're back home, observer status. I want to dovetail that conversation into separatism. Two different things, interconnected. What was the experience like? You've been conventions many times before. You and I had been to a convention before together. Of course, this case, very different role, observer status. What is the mandate they give you as an observer? I'm like, are you like one of the reporters trying to file? Are you there just like shit posting? Like what was the mandate they gave you when they said, get on this plane back home and go observe this convention?
Well, okay. First, I got to tell you, I wasn't, they didn't say get on a plane back home. I was heading home. It was the Thursday before the convention is not normally the day we would fly home, but we were treating Thursday like Friday because the Conservatives had this convention. So it's just kind of a norm where we stopped the House business a day early to allow them all to travel. And if you're not on House duty on a Friday, you just go home early. And I was not on House duty on a Thursday. That was a Friday. So I went home early. I had been actually texting people for a few days being like, hey, who's coming? What's the plan? And there were a couple of options and I think some of them fell through. And I landed in Calgary to, hey, you're in Calgary anyways. We'd love it if you go to the Conservative Convention as an observer. So my first reaction was kind of like, F, right? Like, this is not how I wanted to spend my weekend. But okay, makes sense. I'm here. Why not? And so I wasn't the only one. My colleague Talib was there as well. And we also had support from the party. But what it looks like in a real
And sorry,
sense is
just to be clear, this is Talib Nurmahmed, the guy you beat in the Hill Times.
actually that's true.
Best
It's
newcomer.
great point, Zay.
Just no,
Thank you.
for sure. I know he wants to forget it, but I just never want to let him forget it.
Yeah,
that's,
no,
so I just want to be totally clear.
That's
okay.
really
So they pitted
good.
you one against each other. I get it. I like that.
Doesn't seem fair, but yes, that's what they did.
Good.
And so there is a statement that goes out. You have to sign off on it, of course, but it's like it's the statement that the party says, like, "Hey, okay, this is what we want you all to look like or look at when the convention starts." And that basically signals to the media as well. You're available for commentary, so media commentary that you provide throughout the convention. Now, interesting thing about the start of the convention is we didn't have observer passes at the start. And historically, and just to be clear, the Conservatives did give us observer passes eventually. But we didn't have them at the start. It didn't sound like the emails got a lot of like response asking for the observer passes. So our first couple of media interviews are outside the convention hall.
They probably should have written an iPolitics.
Probably
article
should. This is exactly my point. They were probably like, "Oh, they're just asking for house duty cover. I'm not helping them out." So
show up.
I show up. We're doing interviews outside. The media then says to the Conservatives, "Hey, how come you didn't give them passes?" And I think their reaction was like, "Oh, we'll give them passes." And so I like never attribute to conspiracy what you can attribute to just like people dropping a ball.
Yeah,
It's the version I'm going to say here to be more polite. And so they gave us passes. I ultimately got to go in. So I was there. It's a conservative convention in Calgary. There's a lot of Calgarians. They're well known to all of us, to me. So, it's not a hostile crowd. It's not as though people are coming up to me and yelling at me. I only got in one kind of raised voice argument with a separatist. So that felt like a bit of a win there. And
actually, people go nice to you so that they're not contentious with you, but are people generally like kind to you? I'm always curious about that. Like they know who you are.
Yeah. And actually, it's funny because, of course, we've talked about the level of fame that a local MP has is mostly the squinting and being like, I know him from somewhere, right?
Yeah, but that crowd is different. Yeah.
In a room of political animals, they all know me. So I'm actually walking, you can hear them whispering like, oh, that's Corey Hogan, right? So, in a way, you feel like almost like a big deal, even at their...
From the strategist.
from their convention.
From the strategist.
But, no, everyone was super nice. I won't out anyone because I don't want them to get in trouble for being nice to a liberal. But like, I had many, many pleasant chats with people you would not expect to have me to have pleasant chats with over the course of it. And, I sat in the back and I watched Pierre Poilievre's speech. It was a bit much. It didn't exactly convince me I should cross the floor. Let's put it that way. But no, and then I did go skiing with my daughter, and then I looped back to the convention after Danielle Smith's speech, and it was fine. It was a fine weekend. Not how I would have normally spent it, but I think one of the consequences is, I'd say even this week back, there's just been a little more collegiality maybe from Conservatives who saw me at their convention and were like, hey, how are you doing? Did you have a fun time at the convention? That kind of stuff. So
my question is, what was your explicit mandate there to try to get as much media as possible? Like, did you try to earn that and like try to get in front of the cameras? Was it just so, hey, we're available for comment? Was it trying to like figure out what the goss is and report back to the mothership on your side? I'm always curious, like observer status has like, it's such a mysterious word and it's very commonly used in political conventions, but I'm curious, like being a member of parliament for the other political party, what like you're trying to get out of that, and are you trying to report back? And I'm just talk to me about that.
Yeah, I would say two things. I'm going to say one, and maybe we circle back to it if you're interested in it, maybe not. These things are far less directive in my short time in the House than people assume. Like the PMO does not direct us the way even the Conservatives seem to assume they get directed, right? But I would say in practical terms, my main function was media. It was, okay, this is the Conservative worldview. We do not want it to go unchallenged, so let's challenge that worldview. And so all of us that were there, and we're working with, of course, the team back in Ottawa, we are presenting our worldview, which is materially different from Pierre Poilievre's worldview, the Conservative Party's worldview. So that's the main purpose. Like just to simply not allow it, like it's not our weekend. We know that. It's not our stories, but you don't want to be, when you get to like that fifth paragraph in the news story, in that, second minute of that TV hit, that there's not a counterpoint. And we provided the counterpoint.
Do you measure success on something like that, Corey? Like how successful was it? Was it just the mere presence that makes it successful? Or are there actual metrics that you're trying to that are articulated and you're trying to measure to?
There was not any articulation like that. There were, of course, as there always are for these things, key messages that were like, hey, this is kind of the target. Doesn't always work that way because a key message implies that you are running the story instead of like, please react and give us that. And so that's the art of communications, is to try to put the key message within the frame of that somebody else has provided you, of course, but it doesn't always work to the way you want. I don't know. I mean, if there were metrics and if there was deep monitoring, it was, of course, not happening out of my office. It was happening out of the party office. And I'll tell you, I largely measured it as, was I responsive to every media inquiry I got? Was I available when people wanted me to be available? And did I at least make a good faith effort to work the room, talk to reporters, talk to conservatives, and try to observe, like try to understand things, which is what I was sent to do.
Well, can I pick up on that? What did you observe about the separatist strain within that room? And then I want to broaden the conversation about separatism in our home province. But let's start with that room and work ourselves out to Premier's comments and other things and petition signature gatherings. So let's start with the room. What did you observe?
My observation, both in the speeches, in the halls, in the conversations, is the Conservatives are scared to death of the conversation. They know it splits their base. They do not want to touch it with a 39.5-foot pole. And that's the reality that they're living right now. Like, it's an interesting thing. We often talk about, in politics in general, I'm not talking about my party here, but we talk about what trips people up, like what F's up their day, right?
Yeah.
And I think if your assumption was it was Trump, I would say, yeah, there's a little bit of that. Like, clearly try to avoid saying the word. You don't want anybody to applaud Trump or all of that. So that would be one. But a much bigger one seemed to be the separatist stuff. Like, even in Pierre Poilievre's comments, kind of screw you a little bit to say, like, national unity is the Liberals' fault. Like, I'm old enough to remember Meech Lake and Charlottetown. This is a complicated country. We've had these challenges for a long time. Sometimes they ebb, sometimes they flow. Sometimes we talk about them. Sometimes we just pretend they don't exist. But that was one of the things he said, because that's easy. It's picking on the Liberals. Everybody in the Conservative convention is going to like that. But within his construct, he also, he kind of legitimized it. He coddled it. He's like, you've got legitimate grievances here. He didn't, like, it was in many ways, in my opinion, a pretty cowardly approach to it. Like, he did not say, this is just silly. This is wrong. You're not doing your friends a favor by pretending their absolutely out of their mind idea has validity. And I worry that he did a little bit of that.
Is he worried about, the Brian Mulroney style split with Bouchard, that creates the Bloc Québécois, and suddenly there's
that couldn't have happened because the Liberals weren't government then, and I thought national unity crises only happened on the Liberals'
my
watch.
apologies, I had forgotten that key talking point. No, but is he worried about holding his party together? I mean, does he have to, as Mulroney potentially was, depending on your interpretation of history? Do you have to kind of embrace the sovereignty movement enough to keep them close enough to you to hold government, and then risk, or do you risk a break off? And do you think that that's what he was trying to address?
Well, look, I actually think the 80s were very instructive in that sense. You had a situation in the 1980s where the Conservatives tried to address it head on, said like, hey, there were legitimate grievances, and
loving the light.
The lights have gone off.
Loving the lights go off.
Wave. You know what? I give up. I'm not even going to try to turn them on.
That's right. Don't worry. Someone's going to come knocking, and then we'll bail.
And there was all sorts of attempting to address this issue in a way of that frame. And look, these things are super complicated. I'm not the guy who should be talking about Quebec separatism. That's not my area of expertise. I'm happy to talk about Western separatism. But you even saw the creation of the Reform Party with the West wants in attitude. Yeah. Like, the Conservatives trying to manage this question in the past has created some pretty explosive problems for Canadian politics more broadly, right? Let's not forget, like, in the early 90s, late 80s, like, everything blew up. All of a sudden, we had a Western party. We had a Quebec party. Everything just splintered. And it's not, if they're informed by their own history, they should be nervous with this problem because they know where this problem could potentially lead to. But my personal belief is allowing it to go unchecked or allowing it a certain level of legitimacy. Like, let's play this forward more than 30 seconds. Let's play this forward more than one news cycle. You have just said to people, okay, your problems are legitimate. I agree with you. This is not a ridiculous idea to create a landlocked country of 5 million people. And now you're prime minister, Pierre Poilievre. Now you're doing something. And it's not to the liking of Alberta because you've got to balance interests, and Alberta can't get Alberta's way all of the time, as much as we as Albertans would like that, right? Oh my God. Well, now it's a problem with both parties. And you just told me it was legitimate. And maybe now I've got to get outside of this system. Like, let's play this forward more than one fucking move. Oh, now you got to, blurp that. Let's just play it forward. And that's my big concern with this. Like, it feels very short-sighted. It feels designed to win a moment. But the moment is not more important than the nation.
Well, Corey, how are you thinking about the conservatives, federal conservatives not wanting to touch it, but their provincial cousins facilitating it and perhaps even promoting it? And there's a lot of crossover in those people, both operationally and in a voter base. So, like, I'm really curious how you see that either squaring out on that floor or expanding beyond that into the confines of our province.
Well, I think that, to be fair to the Conservatives, none of us know how to manage this in a funny way. Like, let's just be charitable in this sense. Everybody is looking at a bunch of forces we've never seen before and saying, well, what do we do? And that's true whether you're a federalist or a soft separatist or an outright separatist. Like there are opportunities and threats everywhere for all of these movements that did not exist before. And they are constantly being created in real time. So you have, for example, Danielle Smith gives a speech. And Danielle Smith's speech basically blamed Justin Trudeau, who's not here anymore, guys, but blamed Justin Trudeau for all of the ills of the world. And then after the speech, she has an interview with Vashi Kapelos. And she basically says there, like, I don't care if my members, it's not of my concern if my MLAs are signing this separatist petition. Well, now you've just created yet another flashpoint. And now all of a sudden, Pierre Poilievre needs to answer for what he thinks about this. And so, like, everybody is unsure about how this needs to move. And I just think that in those moments, what you need to do is sort of anchor on what's right and what first principles are. And we can't be in a situation, I say this to my conservative friends, we can't be in a situation where we're trying to get this for short-term gain. The country is way more important than that. You got to knock this shit off, like, right away. And you gotta be much more firm on this. And Melissa Lantsman, you cannot be suggesting that this movement only existed since Mark Carney was prime minister. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy.
I mean, I find that crazy. I find even the Smith and Poilievre's lines that this is a Justin Trudeau reactionary force, especially now when separatism is not just they didn't build a pipeline in a decade, so we're going to separate. It's now become a catch-all for any fucking grievance anyone would have, especially with how they're trying to pile up these signatures. Carter, jump in on here. I'm curious if you've got any follow-ups.
I'm constantly interested in the balance of today versus tomorrow. And you've talked about it yourself in terms of what's the next move. Do you find like the tension between the instinct to just do one move at a time and the strategist brain that you bring to the table of thinking multiple moves ahead? Do you feel like there's a tension between those? I mean, I see the tension that exists within the Conservatives, but I'm thinking about the tension that may exist kind of in a broader political sense.
Yeah, maybe I'll not answer that question directly, but answer it hopefully fully throughout like this indirect answer here. One of the things that I think is like the way the Conservatives approach politics, which I don't know, maybe this is an insight to people, maybe not, but they're good at saying this is our narrative. Now, what are the facts that back up our narrative? And never mind the facts that don't. Never mind the facts that actually indicate a different narrative. What are the facts that back up our narrative? So I'll use a self-serving example here on inflation. Inflation's been within bands in Canada for like 18 months now. It was super high during COVID. And obviously, we've still got a gap to close because it was super high in COVID. Wages are growing faster than inflation every month. But food inflation is up. And so that's, of course, if you talk to the Conservatives, you would think all inflation was up, everything's getting more expensive. That's not really the case, right? But they're good at finding that one fact when the report comes out and driving it to ever-loving death, not really caring about the big picture. And I'm not trying to hate on the game here, right? This is something they do. But I think where everybody in life runs into challenges is when your normal method of operating is not appropriate or insufficient, and your instincts are going to serve you wrong. And I think this is an issue where their instincts are going to serve them wrong. So they can sit there and they can cherry pick. Oh, there's a poll. It shows separatism in Alberta at 20%. Now we're going to say this is a problem the Liberals created. Never mind that, I mean, you're all Albertans here, right? Like, we've been dealing with this on a low burn since the 80s. There was the Western Canada concept. We already talked about the Reform Party that's being created here. I polled for the government of Alberta for a long time. Separatism always polled around this particular level. And you started to see those numbers basically as soon as people stopped having to talk to humans to give poll responses, right? And we're all aware that there's kind of a social unacceptability to saying you're a separatist that otherwise might not present itself as robustly. So lots of reasons to believe this is kind of just the baseline we live in as Albertans. And it doesn't really feel any different in some ways. But they will take the one fact, that is, this is the current level. They'll ignore the longitudinal data and they'll create a story because the story serves them. But again, we can't always be putting party ahead of things. We've got to think about nation. We got to think about the long-term consequences of this, even to ourselves. I go back to that Pierre Poilievre as a future prime minister, potentially, right? Is this really what you want? Is this what you want to be fueling right now? And so I think about those steps forward, and I think they're not necessarily trained wrong to think like, okay, if we can do this, we can control a narrative, we can build a narrative, we can do this. But it's not so much strategist brain versus tactician brain. It's like, what we should be using our whole brain at this particular moment and thinking about the good of the country.
About not using a brain, Danielle Smith and her kind of tacit approval of the separatism referendum. We've been talking a lot on the podcast. You probably haven't been listening. You've been so busy writing special
QP. Yeah.
Elements. But we've been talking about, how in Quebec, people declare themselves as separatists. In Alberta, they just allow the separatists. What do you think is going on there? And how does that frame itself within nation building? Is it incumbent upon a premier to commit to nation building in the same fashion that a federal party or a federal government needs to be committed to the nation building?
Look, I think Alberta's UCP is like Canada's Conservative Party, only more so, right? They are split on this issue. There is a group of people who feel one way about it, and they are terrified to deal with it in any kind of meaningful way. We've all seen the polls in Alberta where the UCP base is effectively split between separatists and federalists. They're looking for a way they can have their cake and eat it too. They're trying to avoid those difficult conversations. In the process, they are coddling separatists to a way that have never been coddled before, right? Like, this has not been a problem in the past in terms of how conservative premiers or conservative leaders have addressed this problem. So they're out there. And unfortunately, again, you can't just say, well, they're doing tactics. This is, again, a thing where they need to think about the long-term health of this province, of this country. We are all Canadians. And the vast majority of Albertans are very, very proud Canadians. And what I find so fascinating about this is that this is an issue that, well, let's put it this way, Stephen, Zain, if I said, hey, I've got an issue and it absolutely splits a party in half.
Yeah.
Like if you're the opponents to that particular party, how is that not the thing you're talking about all day, every day, any day? So it gets into like the Alberta NDP too, and some of the strategic conversations that they might be having. But I find it super fascinating. It's a very interesting situation.
I've got two follow-ups, one direct about separatism and one as an aside, more so a take us in the room question. So let me start with the separatism one first. How seriously is your government taking this? Because the 20% slow burn baseline that's always been there seems to be where we're at right now. But of course, I would argue with you, Corey, that like people are no longer afraid to be separatist curious, especially when they're showing up at convention centers in downtown Calgary. They're joining things with, pride and joy and jumping onto this movement. How concerned are you guys? Let's start there.
Well, I think that you're right. One of the challenges that I have, so there's two things. One is, this is a pretty big issue. I don't think people are going to be flipped with their point of view, but I do think it runs into the novel question problem. Like, Albertans haven't really had to confront this issue and thought through all of like the consequences of separatism, right?
Yes.
And what we now have is a group of people who have gotten very loud, have been legitimized by certain political leaders, and they are saying, here's all of the benefits of separation, and they're not robust, broad arguments about even the economic consequences, to say nothing of the emotional ties that is a country, or all of the things that really matter to us as Canadians, right? There's a feeling, I think, in Alberta that it's going a little bit unchecked in some ways, like that this is rising, and where's our premier on this, for example? The person who's supposed to speak for the province, where's our premier? How serious are we taking it? There's a couple of different answers to that. One is, like, Mark Carney's an Albertan. Like, this is definitely something that he thinks about. This is something we've chatted about, me and Mark, right? But I think a federal government is always trying to make the country work just full stop for as many people, or should be. So it's kind of tough to disaggregate what is the activity of just trying to make the country work from what is the activity to reduce separatist sentiments. Because they're kind of the same thing, right? Or at least
you think that is the, like, from a strategic perspective, you think that is the immunity against this? It's like it's a showing, celebrating rhetorically and otherwise how Canada works.
Well, look, I could say this: if there was no separatist movement in Quebec, no separatist movement in Alberta, we would still want a government that made economic prosperity broad across the country. We would still want a government that made us proud to be Canadians. We would still want a government that defends our sense of Canadianness. So if you're kind of motivated by that, it's not going to look fundamentally different. You might talk about where is focus or not, I suppose, right? But you want to make the country work just more generally. We talk about it. Of course we talk about it. How could you not talk about it? We talk about the risks of there being these conversations in multiple places. We talk about the risks to Canada at this particular moment as we are confronting a changing world. It is not helpful when you talk about a changing world and you talk about a changing dynamic with the United States to have Canadians even perceived or be perceived to be divided by having a very vocal minority in Alberta. It's just not. And when it goes unchecked, it creates this feeling of like, where is this all going, right? Because I think in more normal times, when somebody claims themselves to speak for Albertans and goes down to talk to the U.S. State Department, in more normal times, a premier would say, what are you doing? You do not speak for Albertans. I speak for Albertans. And to be fair to Danielle Smith, she has done a version of this, right? Just like not very forceful. And that this is a foolish motion and a foolish movement that has all of these problems for these reasons, and then speaks about the value of the country.
Carter, do you mind if I talk to our friend about Davos? I've been curious about this.
Was he in Davos?
Corey was not in Davos. However,
No.
I'm very fascinated. The new Main Street polling suggests that the Liberals are just surging. Poilievre's really struggling. However, there was one tidbit in there which said 70% of Canadians had heard of a mention of the Davos speech, and which obviously went viral in its own right, probably had a greater punch than anyone realized. I'm very curious how a caucus, and I mean tactically and like, reacts to that. You guys see that happening. Was it apparent immediately that this was a home run? Were you guys given like directives around propagating it, pushing it out there? How do you guys talk to one another about something? I know it's not as important as separatism, but I'm always curious about things like this and the micro actions that go around making a moment, and how you guys even just react to something like that as members of Parliament and obviously members of the Liberal Party and the government.
Yeah, so it was a constituency week. I was in my constituency office and I watched it, like the feed of it, and I was like fist pumping at my desk. This is exactly what I wanted to see a prime minister say. This is exactly the guy I ran for. I was thrilled. Like, I was thrilled from the jump. And it was then the next day that I was in Prince George for a natural resources conference, and everybody there was talking about it. They played like half of it during the lunch because, as the organizer said, and this is like a natural resources conference. This isn't like strong
natural allies,
territory, right?
Yeah.
But they're like, it's so consequential, it's so important. I had one-on-one meetings just stacked up for 2 days. I think everybody but one brought it up themselves. It's like, I was so proud of the Prime Minister, the speech. It was clear. It was so meaningful right from the jump. and you saw the reaction online, you saw all of this activity. But you've given me an in to talk about the thing I threw out there that you didn't jump up on before, which is directives. That's not actually how we operate. Like, I did not get any directives. Nobody got any directives in terms of like how we were supposed to approach this communication. Everybody was doing their own thing. Some of my colleagues were like clipping the video and putting it online. Some like me just tweeted about it, /blue skied about it, /threaded about it, whatever we say for those, is saying, you got to check out this speech. It's incredible. It's exactly what we need to hear. And some people simply worked through their networks and talked about it. It was one of those things where we all picked it up and we all ran with it of our own accord and we did our own thing. And I got to tell you, one of the things that surprised me most about this job to date, and I don't know that this was always the case, but it's certainly the case now, is like we're not really told or even encouraged what to do most of the time.
Is that just you though? Like because of your
it's not
natural
just me.
skills and stuff?
No,
it's not.
it's not.
Okay.
It's all of us. And because there's not emails like that. Like, yes, we get the things like, oh, it's like National Police Appreciation Day. These are the social media things that you can put on there, right? Or here's the bill kit that explains some of these things. But it's not like I was sitting there in question period today, and this was a brutal question period. It was just like just extra levels of pain for whatever reason. But I was sitting there, and one of the Conservatives was shouting across to somebody on our side, being like, "Oh, you're just going to read the answers the Prime Minister's office gives you." Like, I do question period for them. The Prime Minister's office doesn't give us shit. They don't give us answers to give to people. You know what we do? We work with our departments. We figure out the answers to the questions we think are coming, and then we give answers. Like, we don't have this like crazy central control that the Conservatives seem to think we do. I assume they think we do because they do. But, it just doesn't work like that. And even we were talking about this in the context of some of the conversation in the fall, just before we broke in December, where there was the motion that the Conservatives brought forward. You guys asked, like, hey, how does that work? How does the Prime Minister's office provide you this? They don't. They just say, go and talk about that. You seem to have a reasonable head on your shoulders and you want to talk about that, you go fill your boot, right? But I think that is one of the things that surprised me the most about this job.
Shouldn't there be more of a directed approach so that we could be more effective?
There's a few of your colleagues that I would think would need a little bit more direction.
Well, you know what? I only know what I know. And I'll be honest, I would have assumed more before, and I'm sure I did from the outside. And I even kind of felt like from being more peripheral to the MPs that existed in a past time. But that's just not how it works. It's much more organic than people appreciate, at least on the government side.
Carter, someone's going to knock on his door soon. I'm going to let you take this home.
Well, I think there has to be some sort of a worthwhile balance between direction and allowing the MPs to go on their own. I've met, I don't know, probably 100 members of Parliament, and I have confidence in 3 of them. And so I'm not sure that I'm necessarily going to. I didn't say you were one of them.
I didn't feel like you were. Yeah, no. I didn't think you were saying
definitely not.
Yeah.
I mean, Scott Bryson might be one of my favorites, but I wouldn't have a lot of confidence, even though he's a minister.
Scott Bryson hasn't been an MP for a while.
What fucking time machine? Wait a second. I'm gonna take back your terrible job being the minister today, Carter. Terrible.
Oh, sorry. Was I supposed to be the minister of podcasts?
Yes, you were. Corey, last thing for you. What's on your mind? What are you looking forward to? Tell us something interesting.
Look, I'm like the rest of us. I'm trying to figure out what the hell this parliament's going to look like this spring. The Conservatives have said they're going to work with us. The reality is it's been really hard to get anything through committees or parliament more generally. Like, we haven't had the ability to vote on a lot of bills in this particular parliament. But, there is now this olive branch of moving forward. We are moving faster on this groceries and essentials benefit that's coming forward with the support of the Conservatives. So that's cool. But I just want to know, is this going to be obstruction? Is this going to work? Is this going to happen? And look, because it's obvious, I'll just say, like a lot of people say, is there going to be election coming? I don't think we're gunning for an election. I don't think that this is going to be like an election that happens per se. But I do think people underestimate the likelihood of this government falling just based on the baseline level of obstruction I think we've had the last 6 months.
Are you getting any floor crossers? You talk to anybody?
I mean,
as the minister of podcasts, I'd like to know.
Well, if that's happening, I don't know. But I do know that with all of these by-elections, it wouldn't even necessarily fundamentally change the math, at least in the short term.
I'll pitch you an idea. Stephen Carter for Edmonton Riverbend.
Oh, is he? He's going to run for the Conservatives there?
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think?
I think that he is. He's perfect. He's perfect for the Conservative demographic in Edmonton Riverbend.
So upsetting. How to protect its class, old white guy. We should be protected.
Yeah, well, don't worry. Society's done a good job of that for us. So
Yeah.
Carter, the best thing you could do is you could run, you could lose, and then you could write about how question period sucks, because that's how much
the exact same amount of time.
I won though.
It's the exact
I
same
won,
amount
Zain.
of time as Corey
Zain,
Hogan
I
said.
won. Yeah.
He said the exact same amount of time as Corey Hogan.
Hey, listen,
okay, Carter, we're gonna leave it there.
We should stop now, Zain. As the Minister of Podcasts, I'm putting my foot down.
Oh, thank you. I was just about to exit, but thank you for telling me we should stop.
Yeah.
As I was exiting. Thank you once again, Corey Hogan, the only member of Parliament that joins us. We should probably change that, Carter. This was supposed to be a platform that had the whole plan was to try to go through all of them.
If you're not inviting Chatwin next episode, I don't know what you're doing.
I think the Prime Minister did Nate Erskine Smith's podcast.
He did before he was Prime Minister, but yes, he did.